Right, we're joined by Gareth Balch, who is CEO of Two Circles, a digital marketing agency. Gareth, welcome to FC Business. How have you been these last couple of weeks?
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you for having us on. We're doing all right. We're doing okay. It was, I think it was a Corona roller coaster or something like that. It was called, and it's been up and down. And the first few weeks were hard, but we see so much opportunity, albeit in difficult circumstances here. So in business, we're doing well. The three young terrorists are downstairs, and my wife's had the much harder job through all this, the pain's all in, but that's all going well too. They're back to school next week, so we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. So we're here to talk about the sponsorship industry. You guys put out a report saying that the global sponsorship industry is going to take a massive hit this year, probably decrease by about 37%, from 46 billion to 28 billion. What is the impact of that on sport as a whole?
Hey, it's a significant impact, and we've said throughout this period that the cost of COVID-19 will take some time to be fully calculated, because of course that number is only a 2020 number, and what happens in 21 and beyond is still unknown in its entirety, and of course much more predicated by wider world factors. But it's wonderful to see sport coming back. I hugely enjoyed watching the Premier League last night, and the horse racing and other sports that have been here in the UK, and obviously other countries are even further ahead of us, whilst recognising some are behind us. Now, that number is partly a complete delta. We'll just never see some of those billions again. However, some of those billions will be forward booked and will be transferred into future value for the sports industry, but will require new tools and new ways to deliver more value. Because there's a reason why a sponsorship deal was agreed at a certain price, because it was felt that was the value on the table. So we can't just magically say it's worth more in latter years unless we find and create more value. So I think one of the biggest challenges or opportunities for sports organisations is to make that delta, those billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars that we're looking at globally as a loss to the sports sponsorship industry, to make that forward book value that I can demonstrate I've either delivered this year in ways that aren't through live events, or indeed that I can deliver in future ways that weren't in contract before. That means I can create more value. And in that scenario, the impact of this year will be lessened. It'll be less traumatic for sports organisations. But the truth is, this is a once in a generation financial trauma for sports, and there's no escaping that, and that's going to lead to very real reductions in salary for players, reduce headcount in sports organisations, and I think we're only just starting to see the ramifications of that play out.
Yeah, and one of the things, obviously, there's been a huge impact across the world, and especially in the UK, on businesses. What normally happens in time of a kind of a recession or a drawback is that sponsorship revenues and marketing budgets get cut. How do we mitigate that impact?
Sell the right stuff, I would say. Sell the right dream. You're absolutely right. All the macro data will support this, and as we head into a recession that no reasonable analyst or economist wants to estimate on how long this recession is going to last, we know that marketing budgets are going to be under more pressure than they've ever been before, and ultimately at a macro level in all sectors, in all geographies, in all mediums, will decline. The challenge of sponsorship is to compete for those dollars harder than it's ever done before and sell the right dream, which for sports sponsorship, I believe, is really compelling. There is really good data to demonstrate that the brands and the advertisers who are brave enough to protect marketing spend through a recession perform better. Now, it doesn't return the same dollar straight away in the same way it's always done. So that last click type analysis and attribution that's ruled marketing for the last 10 years, which frankly been a false drug, it becomes a lesser potent during this period, and more strategic, substantial marketing investments that move a brand over a period of time become much more advantageous, which is what sports sponsorship is. Sports sponsorship can thrive through this recession if it sells the right dream. And what I mean by that is it's able to go to a brand and go to an advertiser and demonstrate how it can solve a business problem for them. And sports sponsorship's got unique strengths and capabilities that other marketing mediums and other marketing tools do not have for it. And sports sponsorship has to pick itself up from the analog era that it's been in for a long time and served it very well for a years-late era. And it needs to stand ready for what I believe will be a golden age of sports sponsorship if It fuses physical and digital, talks to a business problem, demonstrates clear and believable attribution stroke measurement of how that's going to deliver it. And if sports sponsorship does that, I think it will outperform the marketing mix or the marketing recession that will happen over the period ahead, and take its greatest share of dollar, which is justified because it delivers a greater return than other mediums.
And in terms of in football, one club that is really good at measuring and showing value for their sponsorship is Everton, and they proved that with their sponsorship with Angry Birds on the sleeve. They've now signed up a new sponsor, Kazoo, for the front of shirt. How a club like that have spent huge amounts of money building up a team that can track the sponsorships and show that the value is there. How do clubs do that who maybe haven't got the resources of someone like Everton?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. The cost of accurate and real-time measurement for sports sponsorship is reducing all the time as we become more familiar with the tools and techniques that's needed. And like you say, in the early years, it required lots of money from the bigger clubs to be able to get this moving. So what I'd say is getting cheaper all the time and ask the right questions. But even if you don't have the tools or the budgets to be able to put everything in place, by demonstrating that you're looking for the right measurements, you're not wholly reliant on what everyone knows are outdated linear TV only measurement tactics, and you're talking and demonstrating that you can bring other data points to the party and show how you've moved sentiment or driven awareness or created conversion or consideration of your sponsors customers, then you're in the right ballpark. So I'd say start moving in the right direction. You'll be surprised how much cheaper the tools become, and therefore asking the right questions is much more valuable than that. So demonstrate the full value that you're delivering, and hang that entirely off the business problem that you went in to solve for the partner. And like I say, Everton's a great example of that. A number of other football clubs have also done the same.
Yeah, and last night we saw the return of the Premier League, and specifically Manchester City. On the front of their shirt, they had they'd given their sponsorship over that, as normally Etihad, to the community outreach partner. How symbolic is that? Does that show that there's a huge value in that sponsorship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that. Well, I whilst a Spurs fan, a little bit of my heart will always be with City, having worked there for a number of years, and hugely admire all that club does. And I think another classy quality touch by City last night to do that, and everything they do through their community programs is in my opinion, really got to be held up there as one of the best. And that's wonderful to see, given all that club's been through in the last 11 years. I think it's a great example of where we're going to see, that type of tactic has been used before. It wasn't in itself not completely innovative, but wonderfully timely, given all the eyes that would have been on the Premier League last night. And I'm sure that would drive a huge amount of value. And obviously the Premier League were really smart by putting the NHS logo on all shirts as well. And I think if you add that with the sorry to go off point a little bit, but if you add that with the taking the knee at the start of the game at Villa and the Black Lives Matter on the back of the shirt, I felt like it created a really strong message last night and demonstrated the power of sport to convey how a nation and indeed how the human race is feeling right now, and demonstrates sport's special place in society, which is a reminder of why sponsorship is such a powerful medium when you get that right. Because I think that power, that message, that sense of leadership that sport can provide in times of adversity is really, really powerful. But to return to your point, that front of shirt is an amazingly valuable asset. I believe it's been undervalued and missold by football clubs, not wanting to be critical of them, but the over-reliance on gambling or betting as a sector in recent years is missold and undersold sports front of shirt. And of course, we need to move away from badging only solutions. And I think Everton's a great example of this. And with regulation coming over the hill, it's going to force the industry into innovation around what it does with front of shirt. And front of shirt's got a lot more value in it if we can figure out how we fuse physical badging assets with digital integration and sell rights and activations together, and we're going to see a lot more people doing that, and you're just seeing a lot of the off-platform stuff that City did last night to help activate its front of shirt message with a message that raises money for great causes.
Yeah, and you touched on it there about the gambling situation. There are real concerns about gambling and the sponsorship, gambling sponsorship within sport and football. And then obviously Everton have moved into a new category with their frontier sponsorship. What sectors? Obviously, COVID has had a huge impact on some of the traditional sectors, and what new sectors do you think are going to emerge as potential new sectors to become sponsors within sport?
Yeah, it's a great question. We in the report we put out a few weeks ago and on our website, we've got the breakdown of that, and I'm sure we can run that on FC Business as well of what that looks like. There will be a shift here as a consequence of COVID. COVID is going to shift where wealth is in in industries and in the world, and that will shift where marketing dollars are. So there's a number of stalwarts or sports sponsorship that are going to suffer most during this. Financial services being one of them, automotive and airlines being another, which are industries that are going to be really, really hard hit and probably have marketing dollars cut faster. But there's some other sectors that are going to do really, really well. I hate the definition of the category technology, because I think that you can't really be a successful business in this age without in some way or another being a technology company. And you hear everyone claiming that, but is one sector where there's going to be a real rise in that. I think the thing that isn't necessarily categorized by a Financial Times kind of business category thing that will be the primary driver of sports sponsorship growth, if we get it right, is digitally native brands who understand how they need to connect with and own audiences, because all businesses born, or majority of businesses born in the last 10, 15 years, are digitally native brands that understand that they'll need to fuse physical and digital experiences and owned customer relationships. And those brands have under-indexed in their investment in sports sponsorship in the last years, largely because they think or believe they can go and find marketing solutions from other parts of the marketing mix that meant sports sponsorship was largely irrelevant for them. That shouldn't and doesn't need to be the case, and I think COVID presents an opportunity for sports sponsorship to re-present itself to those types of brands. And absolutely, Everton's new shirt sponsor and a whole bunch of other more active brands like Airbnb buying an Olympic top sponsorship, or Booking.com buying a UEFA top sponsorship are good examples of where I think there's much more fruit or low-hanging fruit to go picking in that space if we can package ourselves correctly. And adversity is the mother of all innovation. It drives new things, and this adversity of COVID needs to drive innovation on how we present, sell, activate, measure, deliver in one big shebang sports sponsorship. And if we do that, we'll find in sectors that have digitally native challenger brands or new brands coming through, we'll find real
I was going to ask him about that you obviously talk about digital native brands in sponsorship. Do you think they will help attract a new audience for sports and for football clubs in particular? We've obviously got
sorry,
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So the digital native brands, they'll bring in new audiences to sports, the sports sector, and particularly eSports has grown as well. How do you think that all fits in with the sports sponsorship model?
That's that question, isn't it? I don't have a crystal ball. Esports is it's quite a big spectrum of things going on there, right? And so if we're talking about the elite end of gaming and therefore what esports is best known for, then the integration of that into a package that sports rights owners can sell as one is really exciting. And obviously there's been a number of Premier League football clubs who've made real advances to this and have e-gamers on their books as employees, where they own them as talent in the same way that they own physical players as talent. And with the Premier League coming through, you start to get a rights ecosystem that you can essentially integrate. And I'll repeat myself, the biggest thing we need to get right is the integration of physical and digital into a sports sponsorship package that you deliver as a marketing solution to solve a business problem. Really simple stuff. But if you can do that, you're going to win. And e-gaming gives you a real a big asset class that was previously unseen or unusually seen in sports sponsorship, that if you can integrate that with your traditional LED and your front of shirt and all those assets that we've learned to know well, including wonderful backdrops like you see behind you there, and you start to build a solution that really works. So it's the integration of e-gaming at a Premier League level or a professional club level or a league level, championship or whatever, can make that fly for folk. So I think there's a real opportunity there. There's absolutely an opportunity at the other end of the spectrum where we're building, and it's less about esports now and more about gaming, but where we're building everything else from fantasy at the lowest level of it into different accumulator or mobile gaming products and such forth that you want to integrate into your offering. That again gives you reach to be able to build passionate, engaged audiences with large draft times. Again, you can integrate into a sponsorship package and build that as a solution that you can create value for a brand. So I think there's real opportunity for esports, but I kind of hesitated at the start because I think the governance structures and the regulations around how esports is going to work and build a kind of commercial ecosystem that makes it easy for brands to buy into is still maturing. Clearly it's come a long way, but I still think it's got a little way to go, and that is where there's a little bit of lack of clarity, I'd suggest, about how that game's going to play out. But undeniably, it's got a lot of value to bring to the party, and it feels like social media in 2007, where everyone's like, "Ooh, this is really exciting. This is going to be big. Is this thing going to stick? It's definitely going to stick. It's definitely going to be big." And you see that today, where a couple of the biggest companies in the world are now social media companies, call them what you will, and esports maybe won't become quite that big, but we'll certainly build a couple of billion-dollar companies. I think that's for sure, if it hasn't already.
Excellent. Okay, Gareth, finally, what is the recovery going to look like? How long is it going to take? And who's going to come out the best? Who's going to come out probably not so good?
The two answers to that for you. I think we're really optimistic about sports. Sports is going to come through this stronger. The latent demand, the attention that the human race has and wants to invest in sports, that is its ultimate currency, and will stand true through this. And I think we're starting to see that already, with fans going straight back to rugby matches in New Zealand, and I'm sure the audience is big as last night at the Premier League will be strong, and numerous other data points will stand out. And so the question is about when does the money come back, and whether you're on a V-shape, a U-shape, or a J-shape recovery curve, and you're on one of those one way or the other. I think the bigger you are on the way in, the quicker you'll come out. However, the single biggest definition of whether you're going to be on a V, a U, or a J-shaped recovery curve isn't whether you're big or small on the way in, it's how quickly you recover on the way out. So the bigger you are on the way in, the more likely you are to be better on the way out. So if you sat there thinking, I'm a championship football club or a League One or League Two football club, then and more maybe how big your fan base is, because your league size might not only impact that, then that will tell you, okay, how much of a problem I've got here. Because if you're at the lower end of that scale, it's going to be really hard. And therefore, I'm going to need to innovate faster. And I would then say the biggest definition of whether you're going to be on a V-shape, a U-shape, or a J-shape recovery is how quick you're going to innovate. How quick am I going to be able to go and take a look at everything I've previously done and gone, I'm going to take a different approach to sports sponsorship. And if I can do that, if I can do that with some of the tenets I've talked about today, integrate physical and digital, to repeat myself, be able to talk to and solve business problems, and do that with accurate and believable and real-time measurement, and not just sell rights, but sell rights and activation, so I can actually solve that business problem and then prove that out. If your innovation sits in that sector there, and you work really hard to deliver passionate, engaged audiences in real time to solve business problems for brands, then your sponsorship business will be bigger than it's ever been before. And how quickly it gets there is how quickly you can get up that innovation curve.
Excellent. Gareth, that was amazing. Thank you for taking the time. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And hopefully we get back to what you said, a bigger, stronger sponsorship and more passionate sport.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. Thank you very much, Aaron.
So, no problem.